Okay, in this video, we are going to run through syncing all of the data captured in Pitchit back into Salesforce. Now we have another video on how you can sync Salesforce leads into a Pitchit campaign, but this particular video is going to talk about how you can complete that two-way sync so the data goes from Pitchit back into Salesforce, so Salesforce can continue to be your system of record. So I'm going to run through mostly how you can update leads and convert them into contacts, because that is a very common thing that people are using Pitchit to do. However, you could have Salesforce opportunities get updated, Salesforce accounts get updated. There's a lot of things you could theoretically do. The reason I'm not going to go into all of those examples is because the steps are actually identical on how to update leads, convert them into contacts, and post events in leads and contacts. There's really very little difference at all, other than you're posting the event in an account or an opportunity, or changing the status of an account or an opportunity instead of changing the status of a lead or a contact. And so I think you could pretty easily figure out how to do the rest, but I will give some really common examples. And we're going to look at these two leads today. So we'll probably be looking at lead number 2 and lead number 1. And I have made a couple of examples, and we are going to essentially reverse engineer some zaps that I've created in Zapier, because there is two ways really of syncing Pitchit to Salesforce. The first one's through our API, but if you are using the API, I doubt you're watching this video. But if you are, you're going to want to go to pitchit.ai/API and click on webhooks, because the webhooks are how we get data out of Pitchit and back into Salesforce. The API is how you get data from Salesforce to Pitchit, but we are doing the other way around, the other direction. And there's basically 5 webhook APIs. You've got, 5 webhook events. You've got event 1, the priority update, which means that the lead has been moved from cold to warm to hot to closed won to unqualified, right? So that's action number 1. Number 2 is that you've sent a pitch and you basically want to figure out what channel it was on and what we said to that lead. The third one is that we've received a reply, so you'll probably want to know who sent the reply and what they say in reply. The fourth one is that there's been a meeting booked, and you're probably going to want to know when was the meeting booked for, what's the link to the meeting, who owns the calendar, etc. And then the final one is that we've got a disposition update. So basically, there's a new update on the insights of this lead. As the conversation's gone on, we've basically learned something new about them, and you want to post that into Salesforce. The final bit here is really just how do you subscribe. So if you're using the API, we do have details on how to subscribe using the API. There is another video on that. Today we are going to be talking, though, about the second option of integrating data into Pitchit, which has nothing to do with the API link I was just showing you. Rather, it uses our iPaaS provider, Zapier, and we're going to create a series of zaps. So I've created a few examples here, one for lead priority update, one for a new reply being received. I have 2 options for posting how you could post new pitch sent data. I have 2 options for how you could post lead insights update data, and then I have 1 option on new meeting booked. And so that does cover all 5 of the webhook events that I talked about earlier. And we're just going to kind of dive into each of them one at a time. So the first one, we're just going to reverse engineer it, is the lead priority update. And so I've labeled this one. I'm going to have on one side of the screen the lead priority update, and then let's say on the other side of the screen, let's just kind of manually recreate this zap. And we're just going to do this pretty much back to back until we get through all of them in one video. So you just basically watch this one video and then you're effectively done, and it should be ready to roll. So this one's probably the most complicated one, and it's because we've got some conditional logic in a path. And so and that's because what we're trying to figure out is if a lead priority has been updated, so the lead's been marked as cold, warm, or hot, closed won, or unqualified, right? That's a lot of different potential options, and so we need a path for each of those options, because each of those options might change how we update Salesforce. And so the first thing we want is we need to get the lead priority update. So firstly, I'm going to name this something like Pitchit lead priority update, and then a little arrow signal, Salesforce. That way if we have a bunch of zaps like I do, I can really quickly tell that this is basically data going from Pitchit over to Salesforce. The trigger is Pitchit. So select Pitchit, the most recent version. And then the trigger event is a lead priority update. Under account, you should log into your account. You do have an API key. If you click on your name in the bottom right corner of your Pitchit account, back over here, and then you click on integrations, you'll find your API key. So go there, copy it, and then paste it in. Once you do that, it's going to effectively have your name here. Now, I've already finished that step, so it's just letting me select it. But either way, that's how you do it if you don't have your account synced yet. The next step that we've got, I'm just going to pull the completed one up here on the left, is we need to tell the API which campaigns we want to track the lead priority on. And for the simplicity of this particular video, I'm going to do all campaigns, and I'm basically going to treat all campaigns the same. That being said, inside of Pitchit, if you do have a ton of broadcast campaigns like we do in this test account, or a bunch of workflow campaigns like we do in this test account, you theoretically could select either all campaigns and treat them all the same, or you could select a bunch of individual campaigns, and then you could have a zap for each one so that they're all kind of treated differently. Or you could select multiple campaigns and treat several differently than others. But again, for the simplicity of this video, I'm just going to select all. Under Facebook pages and Instagram pages, I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm just going to select all, and I'm going to select all, but you could actually select just one page at a time or 2 pages, etc., just like campaigns. Next up, I'm going to do a quick test. This is going to give you sample data if you don't have any historical stuff. And this is where Maya Langley pops up. So I mentioned that name earlier because that's actually the account we're going to open up. So I'm going to open up this particular contact, and you will see actually some of the activity that I've posted in this account in the past when I was doing some testing to create this first example. And that's perfectly fine. We're going to post some more data there, but just select whatever example you want. It doesn't really matter. Yours may or may not say Maya Langley there. I'm just using that one for the purpose of this demo today. But when you click Find New Records, it should actually pull up several dummy examples if you don't have any, and just select the first one that you see. The next step is we need to do a little function with Salesforce. So choose Salesforce. The action event is going to be to find a record. And that's because we need to effectively find what the ID is of this Maya Langley contact that we're trying to update inside of Salesforce. And Pitchit doesn't necessarily know the ID, but we do know the email, phone number, and contact info. And so what we're going to do is we're going to pop down over in our completed zap, and we're going to look at how we did this. So firstly, the object is lead. That's what we're trying to update. And that is because inside of Salesforce, I am inside of a lead. Now, if you are updating a contact, you would change this object to contact. But because Maya Langley is still considered a lead in this particular Salesforce account, that's what we're going to update. And it depends on your sales process and pipeline, but most people consider leads that have just been sent to Pitchit as leads, but not yet contacts or opportunities, because we don't know if they're going to reply and book a meeting or get transferred into your sales center. And so it probably would be living as a lead in your Salesforce account today. So that's what I'm doing in this particular example. The next step is to choose the field to search value, and we're going to pick email here. You could also pick phone number. I'll show you what the difference is. So when you're doing search value, we're not going to type it in. We're actually going to click the plus button here, and we're going to map the values that Pitchit has supplied from the first step that we picked. So you could map the email or the phone number here. If you map the phone number, make sure you've selected phone number. If you map the email, make sure that you select email. That way it actually can search the proper field in Salesforce to find the email and match it to an actual contact. Once you're done with this, you can keep all the other stuff there, and you can just click continue. Now, if you want Pitchit to actually create a Salesforce record, if it doesn't exist yet, tick this box here, and then you can start mapping everything in. So you can map the last name, You can map the first name. All I'm doing is clicking the plus button here and pulling in those dynamic variables from Pitchit. You could scroll down. I'm going to map the email. I'm going to map the phone number. Now, in this test example, I already have a Maya Langley lead inside of Salesforce, and so it should not create a new one for me. But either way, it might be an option for some of you to actually tick that box. So I'm doing it in this particular example. Once this is done, give it a quick test. It'll tell you if you've configured this wrong. If you get some errors, just knock them out until you get a record sent. And once that's done, you're ready to go. Click next step. This is where we're going to add a path. So add a path here. And what we're going to do is we're basically going to create 4 paths. There we go. And then we are going to name these paths. I'm going to call this one hot leads. This one I'm going to call warm leads. This one I'm going to call cold leads. And then this one I'm going to call one leads. Cool. So those are the 4 different categories. Again, you might do this a little bit differently, but most companies will treat leads in that particular temperature each differently. And so that's why I'm using that as an example. So we're going to kick this over to the completed Zap on the left, and we're going to reverse engineer it. So the first thing is to click on the path and then say the rules are that if, and it'll pop up options here, if choose the lead priority update and pitch it. So if lead priority here contains the word hot in all lowercase, right? Make sure it's all lowercase, that part's important. Then it says that is exactly what it says for the lead that we've mapped. The other 3 will show an X, but it'll say that the record could still be accurate. But this one shows a check mark because that actually is the lead priority of Maya Langley. So we're going to continue here, and then we're going to create the Salesforce record. So Salesforce is the next step here. The action event is to update the record because we want to change the record in Salesforce now that this lead has been upgraded to a hot score. And I'm going to pull up this one in the completed Zap on the left. The Salesforce object is a lead, so we're going to copy that. The record to update. Now, it's very tempting to type something in here, but we're not going to do that. We've already pulled the contact ID in the second step when we looked up the record. So actually click the plus button and then go to the second step and select the ID and map that dynamic ID that we pulled in step 2, right? Once that's done, we are going to update the status. So all these other things in here we're not going to update, at least not in this example. You could update it if you would like to, but I am only going to update the status to qualified, and that's because the lead is hot in Pitchit, which means that it's probably a qualified lead by most companies' definitions. At the end, we're going to go ahead and click continue, and then we're going to do a quick test, and that should, inside of Salesforce, if we get a checkbox, yep, we got a check mark here, inside of Salesforce, this should move the lead status to qualified, and it did. So lead status before that was contacted, and now it's been updated to qualified. So that one's working. Now we're going to kick it over to the next one, warm leads. And so on the right, we've got the unfinished Zap. On the left, we have the finished Zap. Path conditions here, let's see, we've got hot, we've got warm. Okay, so in this case, only continue if, so I'm going to click this field and I'm going to map lead priority update, and I'm going to choose lead priority. Only if lead priority contains, and we're going to type in warm in all lowercase. So the first one was hot, this one's warm. Then we're going to continue on, and it's going to say, hey, this particular lead, Maya Langley, is not marked as hot. Just because it didn't match, though, does not mean that you can't continue, and that's perfectly fine. One lead can't have all 4 conditions met, and so it doesn't mean it's broken. It's actually working properly at filtering it. So the next step we're going to move on is to choose Salesforce. This is almost the exact same step. Okay, now we're going to click, the action event is to update the record. Then we're going to click over to configure. The Salesforce object is a lead. The record to update, we're going to click the plus button here and click on option 2, find record in Salesforce, because we've already looked it up, match the ID, and now it's going to pop down whatever options you want to actually change. So in this example, let's go to configure. I mapped the ID and I selected status, and I made the status nurturing. So we're going to do the exact same thing on the unfinished one. And I think this is a good one because the concept of a warm lead is that it's not cold or hot yet. You're still working on it in conversation. So there's still an active conversation with you. And Pitchit's probably still doing a bunch of follow-up work to try to convert them or get them to be unqualified through an objection or something. And so this is a good status, I think, nurturing for a warm lead. Go ahead and click continue and give it a quick test. If I get a check here, I'm going to move over to Salesforce. It looks like I did. So I'm going to move to Salesforce. It says qualified, but I'm going to refresh and it should say nurturing now. And it does say nurturing. So this one's good to go. Now we're going to move right along to cold leads. So back over to the finished Zap as our example. We are going to look at the next step, which is another Salesforce one. And the action event, again, is to update the lead. Then the lead to update. Again, it's tempting to choose one, but we don't want to do that. We actually have the value. Click the dots over here, click custom, choose find record in Salesforce, and map that ID again. It will then pop down all the options. In this example, on the finished Zap, what I've done is I've marked the status to unqualified. And I think this is a good one because if the lead inside of Pitchit is marked as cold, that basically means that they have said they're not interested anymore. So they've either asked you to stop contacting them, they've unsubscribed from the messaging, or they've said something to the AI agent that makes us think they're not really actively engaged anymore. And so basically what happens is the AI agent has stopped going after them. We're not going to do any more follow-ups. Their workflow or broadcast journey is effectively done. And so that in Salesforce usually translates to an unqualified lead or opportunity. I'm going to push a test through. It looks like it was sent. Maya Langley should now be updated to unqualified, and they are. So this one is good to go. And now we're going to move on to the final one, which is that they have closed one. Back over to the finished Zap. We're just going to reverse engineer it. In this case, this is actually slightly different. So in the setup, I'm going to choose Salesforce again, but I am going to select the action event to convert the lead to a contact. This is because if they are one, that means that they've been transferred into your call center or they've basically scheduled a meeting with a human. And so now the AI has completed the workflow or broadcast journey of this particular lead because they've done what the AI was designed to get them to do, which is get introduced to a human being. And now it's on the human being to convert that lead. And so generally, we don't move the lead into a meeting booked or transferred event unless they've confirmed price, they've confirmed availability and time, they've done all of their objections and questions. And so they actually are very likely a hot lead that someone on your team should turn into a contact and an opportunity and start working. And so that's why I've converted the lead in this particular example. You don't have to do that if you don't want to, but this is just a really good example of how you could do things inside of Salesforce. Again, we'll select the dots on the right, choose custom, select find record in Salesforce, and then map the ID. That's just so they know which one to do. The account, I just mapped the account name that we use, which is Pitchit. It should probably be whatever your company name is here. Create the new opportunity is yes, and then the converted status, just say qualified. Once that's done, you can give it a quick test, and it should essentially have converted that lead into a contact. It looks like I got a checkbox here. And so now in general, you should see the contact of Maya Langley if this worked properly. And it looks like I need to give a quick refresh. Ah, yes, there it is, Maya Langley right here. So it has worked properly at converting them to a contact. Okay, now this Zap is effectively done, and we are going to move on to the next one. So we're going to create a new Zap, and we are going to, on the left, go back, and we're going to select the second one, which is that we're going to look at a new pitch being sent and how we want to mark that inside of Salesforce. So this one actually has two options. I'm going to knock down option number one, which is you can post it in Salesforce as an email message. Here's an example. So if you're inside of the contact, let's go over to a lead here and open up John Wick. If you're inside of the contact, you can post all this activity on their timeline, and you could post it as an email message and then just mark down what channel effectively was doing all the conversation, and or you could do it as a task that's been completed. I'm going to show both examples, and then I'll let each of you decide which one's best for your company. I think they're both good, but long story short, it's hard to pick which one would be better for you. So we're going to do both of them back to back. Opening up the Zap that is finished on the left, and then we're going to recreate it here on the right. The trigger in this case is, of course, Pitchit. So basically something happened in Pitchit. I want to change something in Salesforce because of that. Okay, in the trigger event, I'm going to select new pitch sent. I'm going to map my same Pitchit account as before, and then I'm going to go to configure. And in this example, we selected all campaigns, so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to select all campaigns. Same as before, though, you could select individual campaigns for this. I'm going to give it a quick test, and then we're going to kick it down to the next one, which is to find the record. This should be pretty familiar. We did the same thing in the last one. In this example, we've got Scooby-Doo, and so I'm going to pull this one in as a lead. And the next step, Salesforce, find record. Okay, right here. Log into your Salesforce account, and then we're going to kick this over to configure. Now, what I've done is I've configured this as posting onto a lead as the object, and that's because, at least when I was doing my testing, John Wick was in lead status. You could do it, again, like I said, you could post the comments you could post the pitches that were sent into a contact, into an account, into an opportunity, wherever you want it to go. The only thing you'd change is what object you're posting it into. For today's example, I'm going to post it as a lead. Just type in email. So type in the email on field to search, and then under search value, you click the plus button, and you select email, right? So again, field to search is email. Search value, I mapped that custom dynamic variable of the email address. Back over to the completed Zap, we are going to reverse engineer it. So on the left side, this was the last thing we did, and then I ticked the box to create a record if it doesn't exist. We'll do the same thing, although the record does already exist, so there won't be anything created. I'm going to skip the test because I know that that record's already there, but you could do a quick test if you wanted to, just to make sure it can find a record. Actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, we do need to do the test because I do need to pull the record ID of John Wick here. And so by testing it, it will pull the record ID, which is here. Now we have it, and I will continue over. Final step is to select Salesforce. The action event here is to create a record. Okay, so create record. I'm going to create the record. And then log into my Salesforce account. We're going to kick this over to configure. The object is an email message. So like I said earlier, there's two options. You could post it as a task or as an email message. I'm going to show you both. We'll start with the email message. Under the text body, I'm going to put pitch text as a label. I'm just going to type it in, and then I'm going to click the plus button, and I'm going to click on new pitch sent, and I'm going to select the variable pitch text. Now, the reason I put a label here is so that when you're reading it in Salesforce, you know what this is. So they could say something like leave me alone, but you wouldn't know what that is without the label. So the label says Pitchit text was leave me alone. Now you know that that's what was said. It's just a nice little label to make it easier to understand once it makes its way into Salesforce. Next part, the subject line. Now this is what that looks like. It'll say the subject line here, and then when you pop it down, it'll have all the description data. And we're actually creating an email message, so it'll look like this. And the text body copy goes here, and the subject line goes here. So what I did in this example was I used the subject line new pitch sent on Pitchit via, and then I put a space and I clicked the plus button. I went to the new pitch sent section, and I pulled the variable pitch channel. And so it's going to read new pitch sent on Pitchit via email, voice, SMS, WhatsApp, whatever channel it was on. So it'll tell you that the new pitch was sent and who and what channel it was sent on. Next one is the from address. And since we're sending the message, it'll always be from the same sender or at least the same user account in Pitchit. You can find that by clicking your name and just seeing who is the user that owns this account, who owns this campaign. And in this case, it's Paul at Pitchit. So you could just type this in manually if you want, Paul at Pitchit. It's not required, actually. You could just leave this blank if you want. But inside of Salesforce, it looks nice because it says sales at Pitchit or Paul at Pitchit sent an email to, and then it says the sender's name. So it is kind of nice to read it that way, which is why I put it in as an example. The next part's the most important part. This is like, who are you going to map this information to? So click the plus button under the field to address and click on step number 2, find record, and map that ID. We've done this a couple times now, but it's always the most complicated step. Under status, you have to pick one of these. So whatever the values are, each company will be different on how you select these values. I just picked one because we don't actually use this much in our company, but if you do, pick the right value. You do have to select one though, or you'll get an error. And then just scrolling down, there's nothing left to fill out. So we're going to go ahead and click continue, and we're going to give this a quick test. If we get a checkbox, then it means that the record was sent. And we're going to go back over to our Salesforce account, and we're just going to look for a new email icon being posted after this task, which means that it was very recently added, and it's the most recent activity on the timeline. And it looks like it worked. So this was just now posted at 6:09 Central Time, 7:09 whatever time zone you're on, right? I'm on Eastern right now. And so if I click this down button, you're going to see that these labels were coming through. So the text body says that the pitch text is, here's the pitch text, 1. That was like sample copy, but this is what would actually show if you sent them a message. It would say something like, what time can we talk to you, right? So that's a nice little example of like you getting a snippet of what did you say to this recipient. It labels the from address as the sender in Pitchit and the to address of basically this particular contact. And so it's a nice detailed post on their timeline. This is done, so go ahead and hit publish, and then we are going to go right along and effectively create the second Zap. Now, the nice thing about published Zaps is that once they're published, or even in draft, right, you can actually go and click back to your home page, and you can click Zap Actions and click Duplicate. And so I'm going to duplicate and edit this one because it's very similar to the second option with only one real difference. And so on the left, I'm going to open up my completed second option, which is to post a task onto the timeline. So instead of posting an email onto the timeline or like a message being sent and then labeling in the subject line what channel that message was sent, like it says here, new pitch sent on Pitchit via email, and it's posted as a message. You could also do it posted as a completed task. So new pitch sent via channel email with a checkbox, meaning you completed the task with the AI. They look very similar, but they're just different options for your company. So the first step is identical. The second step is identical. It's just the third step that we need to change. And so that's why I duplicated that last Zap, because we don't really need to change much. I'm going to change the name to option 2, task, Pitchit, new pitch sent to Salesforce, right? And I'm going to open up step 3 here, and I'm going to go over to setup, and I'm just going to reverse engineer what we've done here. So it's still create record. We're going to move to configure, and under configure, the object is task. And so we do need to change this part from email message to task, and then it's going to change your options down here. What I need to look for is, let's click edit Zap right now so you can just see exactly apples to apples what we're looking at. Under name, this is tempting to select one that's static, but don't do that. Click on the dots and click custom, and then click option 2, find record in Salesforce, and map that ID. Again, like I said earlier, that's always the spot where everybody gets stuck. Scroll down to subject, click the plus button, select pitch channel, right? And I'm going to type in new pitch sent via channel, and then the dynamic variable we'll pipe in the channel's name. And that's because I wanted to say right here in the subject line, new pitch sent via channel email, via channel SMS, via channel voice, whatever it is, right? And so that's why I add this little label so it reads better once it gets into Salesforce. After that, the status part, I'm going to map a dropdown. I'm just going to map completed. For me, it showed like the number 1 there. If that shows that, just delete the 1 and then get your dropdown menu and select completed, because the AI has completed it by the time you see it here. And so that's all you got to do. This is basically the end of it. I'm going to scroll down to description, and there's one more step. So I'm going to label pitch text so that we know what actually was sent. I'm going to click the plus button. I'm going to click new pitch sent, and I'm going to select pitch text and map it in. Then I'm going to return space twice. I'm going to type in campaign name. Then I'll click the plus button, and I will select campaign name. 2 more return spaces. Pitch channel, so I know what channel I sent it on, is what I'm typing in. Then I will select pitch channel in the drop-down menu. I think that's the last thing. It is. Once you're done, go ahead and click test. Now back. Anyways, it should show the task right above the email. I'm going to click refresh. And it did work that time. So if I click the arrow down, what you're going to see is the difference between these 2 options. One shows a message with who sent it, who it was to, what did we say, and then in the subject it tells you the action with the channel. The task has the description, and the labels are telling you text, campaign name, and channel, and then the title, new pitch sent via email channel. They're both good. It just depends on what your company wants to do and how you guys do your reporting. If you do reporting based on messages sent, you'll probably choose this option. If y'all do it based on tasks completed by a rep, you'll probably want to choose that option. Now we're going to keep moving right along here, and we are going to create another Zap. This time, we're going to look at lead insights being updated. So inside of Zap, we are going to create a new one on the right. And we're basically just going to reverse engineer the completed one on the left here. So under setup, trigger is Pitchit. Choose the most recent version. The event is lead insights updated. This basically means you have a new disposition to report. So something in the conversation with this lead has led to us having a new summary of basically where does this lead stand. And so it'd be like if you ask a rep, what's up with this lead? And there's been no real change in status. They'd say nothing, but occasionally they have a conversation with them or an interaction with them and they say, oh yeah, there's something new. You know, the lead's now moving forward and booking meetings, right? Or something happened and so there's a new insight to share. That's effectively what our AI has done, is it's basically giving you a new disposition. So I'm just pushing a little test lead through here. In this example, we're going to look at Maya. Actually, yeah, let's look at Maya and click continue. The next thing is a Salesforce event. So under Salesforce, we're going to select the event of finding the record. We've done this step before, so this should start to be familiar. Click continue. In this step, we're going to make the Salesforce object a actually, it's not a lead because I actually upgraded Maya to a contact. And so we're going to change that object, in this case, to a contact. Everything else will be identical though. So back to Zapier. The search, the field to search is email, right? The search value is email. Now you could do phone number here. You could select phone. If you do that, make sure that you map the phone value in search value. That way it matches. Other than that, I'm going to tick the box to create a record if it doesn't exist yet. You could also turn that off if you wanted. If you do select it, you just got to make sure you map the first name, the last name, and the email address and phone number down in this section. And since we've already done that, actually, I'm not going to do it again. Just go back earlier in this video to watch how to do that step if you want to. I'm going to do a quick test just to make sure we do get that contact ID. And if we do, which it looks like we did, we're going to move right along to the next step. So I'm going to click Add Step. This is also a Salesforce step. This is probably the easiest Zap that we're going to make because there's only really one quick thing, and that's to create a note. So Action Event, Create Note. Now there are other things you could do with this particular webhook. I just don't know where any company would do it besides posting it as a note, which is why I did it that way. But again, if you want to post it as a task, I have a second option that we're going to run through next, where we effectively do just that. We post it as a task. In the note title, I'm going to call it New Lead Insights Update from Pitchit. One quick note, notes don't show up on desktop Salesforce. They only show up on the Salesforce mobile app. So I won't be able to show you what it looks like when I post it here, but just know that if I had the Salesforce mobile app pulled up, it would show it there. So I'm going to give this in the notes section, I'm going to give it a label of lead additional information. And then I'm going to click the plus button, go to the Pitchit lead insights update, and I'm going to select lead additional information, map it there. Then I'll return space, lead, priority, explanation. You could also call it like a disposition or a lead summary. And I'm going to select lead summary. And then in the Salesforce object, again, Maya Langley in this account is effectively a contact. You could map it to a lead. You could map it to whatever you want, right? But effectively, that's where you're going to make sure to map everything. So Salesforce object. Let's do their ID here. Make sure it gets mapped properly. Okay, now once this is done, I'm going to do a quick test step. And if it is tested, it should work. It looks like I failed, and I think I know why. So let's go back to Salesforce object and figure out what I did wrong. Oh, I see. I was supposed to select contact or lead. So let's redo that. And then it'll pop down the parent record. That is when I select the dots and I choose custom, find record, and then map the ID. Okay, that should fix the problem. Let's do a quick test. And if I get a checkbox, we're going to keep moving right along. Looks like it worked. Again, because I am on desktop, I can't show you what that looks like. It'll only show on mobile. But we are going to move to the next one because it is working. If I were in the mobile app, you would see it. The next one is to copy every single thing that we just did, only instead of posting as a note, we're going to post it as a task. And so again, back to your home page, once you publish that Zap, you should be able to duplicate it. And so I'm going to go ahead and click Zap Actions and duplicate the one we just made. And I'm just going to make one small edit, which is that instead of creating a note, I'm going to click on the bottom task here. I'm going to go over to Setup. I am going to change that to create a record. And you are probably familiar with this one because we just got done creating a bunch of other records that were tasks. I'm going to select task. It's going to drop down the options. On the left, I'm just going to open it up too so we can see under the hood. Under name, click the dots, choose custom, select step 2, find record in Salesforce and map that ID. That's the hardest part. Under subject, just type in a static title, new lead insights, update, right? And then let's scroll down to the description section. Here we go. I'm going to give it a label of lead insights update. And then I'm going to click the plus button, click the lead insights update, and map the lead priority explanation field. Return space, additional information captured, typing it right in here. Then I'm going to map lead additional information. I think that's it for this one. It is, and we're going to go down and do a quick test. If I hit test and we get checkboxes, we'll go check it in Salesforce. Looks like it worked. So what you should see now, if I click show all activities, is you should effectively see that a new lead insight has been added. I think I forgot one step, which is the status. I should have marked that as completed. And so let's go back because it's not completed here and we don't want a bunch of uncompleted tasks getting posted. So let's retest that step and it should now have it as completed. Let's do a quick refresh. And yes, and it's completed now. So that fixed the problem. Let's go ahead and publish that. And again, we're going to keep moving right along. We've got a couple more to knock out. So that's option 1 and 2, option 1 and 2. Let's do new meeting booked. So I'm going to open up Pitchit new meeting booked on the left, and we're going to copy it and create a new one on the right. So let's open this bad boy up and click Edit Zap. We are going to start with a Pitchit event on the trigger section. So click the trigger, type in Pitchit, most recent version. The trigger event this time is meeting booked. This is the fourth of 5 types of meetings that, or types of events that you can send into Salesforce. Map your account, click continue. I'm going to choose all campaigns, which is how I did it on the left here, and do a quick test. Let's test it out. Once you've done that, you should have a couple of records to choose from. It looks like it's giving me a meeting booked from John Wick, which is perfectly fine. We've seen that example in a couple of the previous ones. And then we're going to move on to the second step, which is Salesforce. As you can see on the left, what our event is to find a record. Again, you've done this before. We're basically just looking for that record ID so we know how to map the meeting to the proper contact in Salesforce. The object here is a lead. The search value, the field to search, we're going to do email, but you could do phone, right? That's also an option. If you do email, map the email. If you choose phone, map the phone here, right? I did email, so I'm going to map the email. I'm going to click the dots on the right, and I'm going to select email, map it properly, right? Next thing is you could optionally say create record if it doesn't exist yet. On the left, I certainly did that. I'll do this example one more time just so we can kind of put it into long-term memory. Last name, map the last name in Pitchit. First name, map the first name in Pitchit. Go down until you get to phone. Click the plus, map the phone number. Click the plus next to email, map the email. That is good enough. We're going to do a quick test so that we capture that contact ID. And then we're going to move on to the final part, which is to create a record, as long as it works. And it did. Click the plus button. Another Salesforce event to finish this one off. The event is to create record. This is a new type of record though than the other ones. It's not a task. And so once you get there, we're actually going to create an object which is called an event. It's going to pop down some stuff. This is all new. Under name, don't click the drop down. That's an easy place to get stuck. Click the dots, choose custom, go to the find record in Salesforce and map that ID. Again, everybody gets stuck on that part. Don't let yourself get stuck. Under subject, type in the label meeting booked in Pitchit. You could change that if you want. I think it's a nice descriptive title. Under location, I like to map. I click the plus button. I like to map the meeting link. That way you know what calendar. Are they meeting on Hangouts, on Teams, wherever, right? Next one is start date time. So go down to start date time and map the meeting date and time here. The next part is it's a required field where you have to tell them how long is this meeting under duration. I think I just skipped that. So we're going to go up one and just type in manually 30. That's the default time that Pitchit books for each of its meetings. And if you're using the default meeting booker on Pitchit, it'll be 30. But you could change that to 15 or 60 if you've got like a custom time limit in Pitchit. That's fine. I'm doing 30 for this example. Once you're done, just click test. And I think we did this one under John Wick, which is a lead. So I'm going to pull up John Wick. And you should see that a meeting has been posted. Yes, it has right here. New meeting booked. Here's the location. This is the start time. Here's the end time 30 minutes later. And it's got the date of the meeting. And we're all set, right? So that one is done. We are going to move right along to, I believe this is our last one, which is the lead. We already did that one. We did lead priority update. Let's find the one that we haven't done yet. Lead priority update, new meeting booked, pitch lead insights, new pitch sent, new reply received. So we're going to do new reply received, which is the final of 5 types of triggers in Pitchit. On the right side, we're going to recreate what we have finished on the left side. Select Pitchit here. The event is a new one for you. New reply has been received. Map your Pitchit account here. Again, this is going to start getting a little repetitive now that we're doing so many back-to-back. Configure all campaigns. Go ahead and push a test reply through. This second step we've done many, many times, which is where we have to find the record in Salesforce to match it. I do have my example of John Wick here, so I'm going to move on. The second event is Salesforce. The action event is to find a record. Here, I've already logged into Salesforce. I'm going to move right along. The Salesforce object is a lead in this example. The search value, the field to search is email. Again, you could choose phone if you want. If you choose phone, you got a map phone. But since I picked email, I'm mapping an email. I'm not going to click create, but you could click create a new one if it doesn't exist. We've already done that step a bunch. Next part is you click continue, get your test contact ID, and then you can move on to the final step, which is to create a record. I got the ID, record ID properly, so I'm going to click add step, and I'm going to type in Salesforce. The action event here is, let's go back to setup, is to create the record. So I'm going to type create record. I'm going to move on to configure. The object here is, the object here is a lead. So, oh, actually it's an email message, my bad. So it is an email message. All right, email message. And it's going to pop down all your options. And we're going to click edit just so it's apples to apples, left to right. Under text body, right here, I'm going to manually type reply received. This is just a label. You can put whatever you want. Then click the plus button, click new reply received, and just map in the reply text. Let's scroll down a bit under subject. I'm going to type new reply received in Pitchit. And then under from name, I'm going to map with a plus. I'm going to map the first name and the last name of who has replied to us. And then the from address, I'm going to map the email. You could also map the phone number if you want. And the to address, again, this is a message you are receiving. So the to address is actually whatever address you have in Pitchit, which I believe in my example was pitchit.ai. Yes. So that's the one I'm going to map just static to the to address. Is it incoming? Click true because it actually is. You've received this message. It's inbound. Under status, we don't use these at my company, but if you do, just map the right number here. It is required to pick one. And I believe under from, this is the most important part, easiest part to get stuck, is to, and under from, do not pick the dropdown. That'll get you stuck. Choose the dots, click custom, and then in the second step, find record, map the ID. Again, that gets people stuck at every step. Once you're finished here, go ahead and click continue. And I believe this is a John Wick account, right? It is. So I'm going to click test step. What you should see is a new email being posted right above here. And it would show that a new reply was received from John Wick. And it does show it here. And so how this reads is it says new reply received in Pitchit, right? And then it says who sent it was John Wick. Who they sent it to? Paul at Pitchit AI. That's your AI agent. What did they say? And it said reply was received, and what they said was, here's the reply text one. Again, this is just dummy copy, but you get the gist. So long story short, that was, I believe it was 7 back-to-back zaps that explain all the different ways you can post data from Pitchit into Salesforce contacts and leads, and how you can convert leads into contacts and automatically create opportunities and post all kinds of cool stuff so that you've got a nice two-way sync with Salesforce when you're using Pitchit. Thanks for watching.